Welcome back to this November edition of Conversations with Archbishop Kurtz, the second segment. And we have a treat for you. Martine Siegel is here. Martine, thank you for your presence.
You're welcome.
I'm going to tell the audience a little bit about your background. First of all, Martine is the Victim Assistance Coordinator for the Archdiocese of Louisville, and we'll be talking a little more about that. She is eminently qualified. Martine is a clinical nurse specialist in psychiatry. You have been serving as the Victim Assistance Coordinator since 2013, so for a good 5 years. And I know that currently you are also the Director of Counseling Services for the Archdiocesan Family Ministries Office. We're really very happy you serve. I know in the past you've served at Holy Trinity School. You're a parishioner of Holy Trinity. You have 4 grown children and so many things that you are doing. So thank you for being here.
You're welcome.
Victim Assistance Coordinator, we're talking here about what is a very sensitive and painful situation. Many people know about sexual abuse that has occurred in families and societies, and sadly we know about abuse that has occurred within our church itself, with priests or bishops or lay leaders who misuse their trust. Tell us a little bit about maybe some of the misconceptions. What have you learned that our viewing audience might appreciate knowing?
Well, Archbishop, I think that there are a lot of misconceptions about sexual abuse victims. One being, and we hear this often, why didn't they tell? Why didn't they speak up when it happened? I think unless you've worked with them like I have for decades, and or you have been a victim of abuse, you can't understand how difficult that is. Yeah. And so when someone comes forward 30 years later, it's because they're ready to talk. It's because maybe they remember. Our mind has an incredible way of shielding us from trauma, which is what childhood sexual abuse is. And for some people, that comes years and years later to be able to heal and talk about it.
Sometimes people hear that, they say, well, gee, this happened decades ago, and yet it's as if it just happened today in the hearts of people who have been abused. Huh?
Absolutely. And when I have someone sitting in front of me and they're 70 years old and they're talking about what happened to them, wow. I hear an 8-year-old. Wow. Or a 10-year-old talking. They go back in, that emotion coming out is what they're remembering at that time. Yeah. And it's very powerful.
You know, what strikes me, Martine, is obviously you're, as I said, eminently qualified as a professional. You bring a very healthy mindset. There's a very caring approach that you bring. So thank you for doing that. What else have you learned? I could imagine that no one situation is exactly the same as another, huh?
Exactly, and that's important to note, that there is no blueprint for dealing with an individual who's been abused, because they deal with that in their own way, according to their own personality and their own coping skills. And their family of origin has a lot to do with that. And so where that abuse took place, whether it was home, the church, in a social situation, all those things play into how they deal with what happened to them. It's always there's an imbalance of power there, and there's a lot of repercussions from that imbalance of power when they've been hurt.
So someone in a position of authority has misused that authority for their own terrible purposes.
Absolutely, and that could be a family member, that could be someone in our church, that could be, someone that they respected deeply. So that wounds.
Yeah, strikes me there may be someone listening right now or watching us who maybe is saying, I really need to come forward with an abuse, an experience that I've carried for many years. So we'll put on the screen the right contact for you, and I thank you for doing that. I think there's another part, and it fits together, but it just seems so in some ways very different, and that is what we might call the preventive approach, the work that you've been doing with safe environment. I was looking at some of the material that's part of your background, and I think, if I'm correct, I saw that there were like 48,000 either priests or bishops or lay leaders, volunteers within the Archdiocese who have been helped through these programs promoting safe environment, knowing what the warning signals are. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I'm very proud of our efforts. I'm very passionate about them. I'm very grateful that you and Dr. Reynolds have allowed a live training to continue, because I think it shows how much we care.
It's not just a video. That's very well. That's your efforts too. Thank you for that.
So, and you know, the Safe Environment Program, we want to teach them how to recognize signs of sexual abuse in the children they work with. We want them to know what to do if a child comes to them and tells them someone's hurting them. I want them to understand the mind of a child who's been abused as best they can. And I want them to understand the mind of an abuser, because we treat them too, and they teach us. And then we want them to know how to report in the state of Kentucky what our laws are and what they're obligated to do.
So this could be, God forbid, it would be a priest or a woman religious, or it could be a deacon, it could be anyone, and the vast majority, of course, of our priests and deacons and are serving so faithfully and honestly, and of course we want to support them. But this is so very important. Do you go to different parts of the diocese, or do people come to you? How do you do that?
Yes, all a church has to do is call. I've been to Lebanon and Glasgow and Horse Cave and the Southern Kentucky Missions.
You can get tours of the Archdiocese,
yes.
huh?
I've come to know how to get everywhere
and
very
how many
easily.
come to a particular group? I mean, could it be a very small number or a large?
Yes, we've had as few as 4. And we've had as many as over 300.
Oh my gosh! And important to know that if someone wants to be to work for or be a substantial volunteer within the Archdiocese, it's required, isn't it?
It is required, and as well as a background check.
Yeah. Background check plus this, as you said, face-to-face or live preparation.
Yes, and then of course we teach our children in our schools with the Speak Up, Be Safe program, which is kind of a bookend to the Honor Thy Child for the adults, so that the children can understand, you know, when someone may be trying to take advantage of them.
I see the newsletters that also go out with ongoing formation and ongoing information. So I get them and I find them helpful.
They're wonderfully done. Scott Fitzgerald does a great job with those. We edit them together, and then hopefully that will be continuing education for the people that have taken this class and want to continue to learn and stay up to date on abuse statistics.
Well, Martine, this was a whirlwind. We covered the very important accompaniment that you do so in such a healthy and professional way, but in a caring way with people who have been victims. Victim survivors of abuse, and then the preventative work that has been going on for the last 15 years. And thank you for your leadership, and we're really grateful for your coming and being part of this program today. And thank you, the viewing audience, for being part of this second segment of the November edition of Conversations with Archbishop Kurtz. Please stay tuned for the final segment.